Welcome inside the January 25th edition of Vikings Update. We start today's show with basketball, where the Vikings are in the thick of North Star Conference play. VCSU women hosted Dickinson State back on January 16th in a back-and-forth contest that featured 16 lead changes and 10 ties. Vikings led 52-46 entering the fourth quarter, but Dickinson made the last run, outscoring the Vikings by 10 points in the fourth, and the Blue Hawks picked up a 68-64 victory. Vikings had 20 points from Lexi Lennon and 16 from Georgia Williams. VCSU and Dickinson rematched on Friday in Dickinson. Vikings held a 26-15 lead after the first quarter, but cannot hang on as they lost 71-60. VCSU now 15-7 overall and 6-3 in conference play. The Vikings host Mayville State and Waldorf University for games this weekend at the Bubble. Viking men also squared off with Dickinson twice last week in a pair of thrillers. During Monday's game in Valley City, VCSU led 23-9 in the early going before the Blue Hawks closed the gap for a thrilling finish over the last 4 minutes. With the Vikings trailing by 2, Rashad Sadahu made a go-ahead three-pointer with 14 seconds left. The Blue Hawks struck last, though, sinking 2 free throws with 10 seconds remaining for the 74-73 victory. Sadahu had a monster game for VCSU with 27 points and 6 three-pointers, and Austin Dunbar posted a double-double of 20 points and 13 boards. Jaden Ferguson poured in 20 points as well. In Friday's rematch in Dickinson, the Vikings again held an early lead, but could not close out the win as they fell 60-57 to the Blue Hawks. VCSU now 12-11 overall and 4-5 in conference play. Vikings will host Mayville on Friday and Waldorf on Saturday as part of men's and women's doubleheaders this weekend in Valley City. You can hear more about the VCSU basketball seasons at our Viking Athletics Winter Luncheon, which comes up Friday at the Valley City Town and Country Club. Come out at noon for food and basketball talk from VCSU coaches and student athletes. With February coming up, that means baseball and softball seasons are just around the corner, and both sports had the preseason coaches poll just released by the North Star Athletic Association. In softball, the Vikings are picked to finish second in the conference behind Dickinson State, the defending conference champion. And in baseball, VCSU is picked to finish 7th this season out of 10 teams. Bellevue is the unanimous favorite to win the conference baseball title again. The indoor track season is already in full swing for the Vikings, who have competed in 2 meets already. We'll talk with head coach Chris Johnson in just a bit. Most recently, VCSU traveled to the large South Dakota State Division II Invitational last Friday. VCSU had 6 top 10 finishes, a school record, and 9 personal records at the large meet. Siri Geisler and Megan Johnson each had strong showings in field events for the Viking women, and Kiana Hansen set a new school record in the 400-meter dash. On the men's side, Dennis Gonzalez had a top 5 finish in the 3,000 meters, and Oren Rambo, Nicholas Ernst, and Jalen Sibley all had top 10 showings. Viking track back in action this Saturday at the Cobber Duels, hosted by Concordia College in Moorhead. Joined on this week's edition of Vikings Update by Chris Johnson, head track and field coach here at Valley City State University. And Chris, the short, very fast indoor season is underway. You get all your regular season meets and your conference meet in just over a month. But you've had 2 meets already, third coming up this weekend. What are your thoughts on how the season's gone so far through the first 2 meets?
Well, we've got a lot of young kids on the team, a lot of freshmen. Have some returning athletes, obviously, that have helped us tremendously last year. The growth has been a lot better than I thought it was going to be, honestly, which is obviously a positive. Practicing in essentially an oversized barn right now in the indoor season makes things a little difficult. But it's heated this year, which is a plus as compared to last year. But the work that the athletes are putting in, and we expected a few more athletes back this year. Some things didn't work out, but we've got enough incoming athletes to really make an impact. And what we have this year and what we had last year, I think, to a certain degree, was athletes that really want to put in the time and want to put in the work to get better. And I know that sounds very cliche, but at the same time, if you come to one of our practices and you see the work that these athletes put in, they stay a little bit after, work on blocks, get a couple extra throws in, get a couple extra reps in. Right. It's making a big difference right now, and you can see it just a couple weeks into the indoor season. Unfortunately, there's only a couple more weeks of the indoor season, so we hope to continue that growth as conferences approach in 3 to 4 weeks. So,
last weekend you were down at South Dakota State University for a D2 Invitational. That's where the conference championships will be held as well. Is that good to get down there before the conference championships? Be familiar with that arena and that track?
It is. We didn't have that opportunity last year. We were fortunate enough to get invited down to the D2 Invitational, and we put up some good times. I think 9 or 10 personal bests from our athletes. We had a school record broken. On that 300-meter track, it's a faster track, it's a bigger track with better competition, and generally in track and field, especially in the timed running events, you want to run against faster competition. That'll bring up your athletes.
Right.
That'll get them to run faster if they respond positively to that competition. And as I said, running at the track that we're going to have conferences at for our newcomers, that's a total sense of comfort thing. Because once we get around to conferences, they're going to be that much more comfortable and ready to roll once conferences happen. So
you have some athletes who are very close to qualifying for national, meeting that national qualifying B standard. What are some of your goals going forward for the rest of the year? Are you looking at a certain number of all conference finishes, national qualifiers? Have you set goals like that, or are you thinking more in general of need to set PRs every week?
Well, I don't want to sound negative, but I don't think we're quite at the team level yet where we can win a conference title on the men's and women's side. So we're focused on all conference finishes. We're focused on conference champions, national qualifiers, potentially national champions. And certainly that's not as out of the realm of possibility as we experienced last year. So we had a number of all conference honors last year that really, I think, set the tone for our team, especially cross country, indoor, and outdoor. We had a great deal of success at the conference meet. And that's really what we pride ourselves on. Obviously, these meets leading up to the conference meet are very important. They set the tone, but at the same time, we've got to be ready to roll and ready to compete when it comes to the most important time of the year, which is conference. And we are fortunate enough to have a few athletes that are in national consideration. Obviously, Siri in the shot put, Megan in the long jump, Dennis and Gonzalez in the distance events. We've got a couple athletes who can certainly make an impact and potentially qualify for a national meet.
Viking track and field in full swing, headed to Concordia College this weekend for their third meet of the indoor season. Chris, appreciate the time. Good luck this weekend and the rest of the year.
Thank you, Mark.